All right. Well, welcome back to the IndeVets Happy Hour. I am your host, Dr. Andrew Heller, and I'm here as usual with my co-host, Dr. Marisa Brunetti.
Happy to be here.
We are drinking not beer today.
We are out of beer in the Brunetti house, which is that's not a normal thing, but we did just get back from vacation, so.
Well, we're drinking some good bourbon, so
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for providing.
We're drinking out of recycled glass, which I think is a perfect transition into what we want to talk about today.
Absolutely. Today we have a great guest. She's actually one of our very own IndeVets. Her name is Dr. Yui Shapard. We are going to be talking about sustainability in the veterinary industry. So, Yui, welcome. We want to give you an opportunity to sort of introduce yourself. I can just say some brief things, but Yui is in our Manhattan region of the country, and she's been with us since October of last year. So, Yui, what can you tell us about your career path to this point?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here on the podcast. Happy to be here. And unfortunately, I'm drinking tea, not alcohol today, but maybe later tonight. My brief history, I always hate talking about myself, but I'll try to keep this as painless as possible. So I grew up in Japan and went to an international school. I kind of spent half of my life in Japan and half of my life here in the US. Had like dual citizenship and everything. So I kind of grew up with the idea that, you know, I can one day be like a bridge for veterinary medicine and animal welfare in Japan and the US, because when it comes to vet med and animal welfare standards, Japan's definitely lagging compared to the US and also the UK. I ended up going to vet school in the UK mainly because my focus was really about improving animal welfare, and UK vet schools are really strong on that subject. It's the first thing that they make you take an oath as a veterinarian when you graduate is to always uphold and prioritize the welfare of the animal as the number one priority. And, you know, living by that, I've come to kind of practice with the idea to not just, you know, focus on the science and the medicine of everything, but also kind of look at individual patients a little bit more holistically. And I think that's kind of how I trickled into more of the sustainability and the larger climate change issues.
That's really great.
I did not know all of that. Thank you, Yui. That was awesome.
I knew a little bit of that from when we talked originally, which was definitely intriguing to me. So I'm really happy that we finally have had you on the podcast to talk about some of those things that you've been so passionate about, at least in the recent years. And, you know, today we're talking about sustainability in the industry. I think this episode, if you're listening, is intended for everyone. Really, this is one of those rated PG for everyone in the audience. So that means veterinarians, that means practice owners, practice managers, technicians and staff, and even industry, right? The people that sell veterinarians their products, which I definitely want to talk a little bit more about.
And people who build veterinary hospitals.
Absolutely. Because that's really the place you work.
Yeah.
Has to be a sustainable building, right?
And there are a lot of very old and unsustainable veterinary practice buildings.
So a lot of veterinarians and people in our industry are well aware of this idea of One Health, right? I've heard that term being floated around by many people. And you also mentioned one step further, something called One Welfare. Can you tell us a little bit about the differences and what each one means to you?
So One Health is studying and understanding the interconnection between human health, animal health, and environmental health. One Welfare is very similar, but it takes it a little bit further and widens the scope a little bit further to include welfare as a very strong emphasis, that there's an interconnection, a deep connection of animal welfare. And we also have to remember welfare includes health as well. Health can't exist without welfare and vice versa. So animal welfare, human welfare, and environmental welfare, as in conservation, biodiversity, all of that, they're all connected. and that one cannot improve without the others improving at the same time. And One Welfare is much newer in concept than One Health, but it is recognized by a organization called the OIE. And they're not that famous or well known in the US, but they're called the World Organization for Animal Health, and their headquarters located in France. So it's a more European organization, and it seems like One Welfare is more widely recognized in Europe and in Canada as well. But I really wanted to bring this forth in the piece that I wrote, and I'm glad that we're talking about it here on the podcast today, because I do think that it covers a lot of our challenges today, and it absolutely is related to what we do for a living. Some of us call this our calling. And I believe that, One Welfare is something that we all should definitely can learn more about and can integrate into our daily practices from a small and large scale.
Yeah. And we really don't talk about that enough here in the US. So that's really great to bring to everyone's attention. And also just to say that all of this information from Yui will be in our show notes. So we'll make sure to link them to these organizations so people can have more information about it.
Right. And a lot of the things you're going to talk about are what you laid out in a blog piece on the IndeVets website, which is available as well. And we're talking about this actually right around the time of Earth Day. Right? We haven't mentioned that yet, right? So we thought this was a really good time to bring this subject up. So obviously this is, a topic that's near and dear to your heart. What information or what programs have you undertaken to learn about this?
The biggest program that I've started is, honestly, I'm fairly fresh out of vet school. I've only been in practice for 4 years, so I definitely have student loans to pay back. And so I can't really afford something that's expensive, like a graduate or master's. But I did find through a community about a free online One Health certificate that anyone can take. And it's on the WSAVA website or on the WSAVA Colorado State website. I'm actually not sure, but I can definitely, have that link posted as well later. So I've been taking some online lectures from there. I've also just been doing a lot of personal readings on the side, articles relating to climate change, books. The one that I've recently been reading is Bill Gates' new book that came out, the How to Avoid Climate Change book, or How to Avoid Climate Disaster. So I've been reading that. And mainly been talking to a lot of people. Also, the big resource that I've been taking from a daily basis is on social media, Instagram. I'm following a lot of environmental activists, and it's really refreshing to see how many millennials and Gen Zs are already out there taking a stance, researching for people like me who don't really have the time to research a ton, and laying out what's going on, what's the most recent news about relating to climate change. So really just taking on different resources and materials from different factors and different facets.
All right. Well, yeah.
And Yui, are there specific organizations or things related to climate change that are specific to veterinary medicine? Besides, I know you talked about WSAVA, which is important, but are there any other independent organizations that you've been kind of researching and looking into?
Yes, there is a UK founded organization called Vet Sustain. It's founded by veterinarians in the UK. I think they only started maybe in 2019 or 2020. And they have a lot of resources related to championing sustainability in our veterinary industry. They have resources like articles, as well as a lot of webinars. And they also have something called the Greener Veterinary Practice Checklist that veterinary practices can implement from day one. And even just as a solo veterinarian, reading it can be really helpful for me as well, because there are certain things that I can do as a vet. I can use, instead of using single-use gowns or single-use caps for surgery, I can just buy one for myself and use it over again. I can just make sure that I'm recycling everything that I use there, the small things like that. And, there's also networks available, so you can get in touch with like-minded people. Vet Sustain has a Facebook group, so you can definitely join them. And they have these daily updates from the group members about news related to climate change. use relating to, veterinary public health and how certain things that we do as kind of default can potentially harm the environment. And it does really help you question the things that you were taught were right, and gives an opportunity to maybe rehash things or discuss the way things used to be done and come up with maybe a better solution. So yes, there's a lot of other resources out there. And then the one that also is in Australia is Veterinarians for Climate Change. They're not as comprehensive as Vet Sustain, but they're also a really good resource as well.
So you're saying there are none in the U.S. currently?
None that I can find.
All right. Well,
I could be wrong.
Well, Yui, this seems like a good opening.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big undertaking that I think there's an opening for.
Yes.
And so let's start there. So let's talk about some of the problems our industry has and how we can solve some of those problems. So what is your goal here, and what are the problems we want to solve?
So this is such a huge over-encompassing problem that I feel it's a little overwhelming to start thinking about. And I've definitely felt this overwhelming sense of being completely powerless because I don't know where to start. But I think the most important thing is, even if it may not be as impactful, starting small and starting from anywhere, from the easiest things, can be a positive ripple effect to kind of change your own mindset, but also to start positively influencing the people around you. What practices I think can do as the easiest thing is what I referred to before with the greener veterinary practice checklist. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good start.
Do you want to just say a few things that are on that checklist just as examples?
Yeah.
And we'll link to it.
Yeah. On their greener veterinary practice checklist, what they have are a couple different key points to address. One is practice responsible resource use. So that would be something like, reducing the disposable materials of single-use plastics, like surgical textiles, wherever it's possible. Big one that a lot of practices are already implementing, but not enough probably, is using paper-free management systems, using electronic medical records instead of paper.
Huge.
Hey, practice managers out there, owners out there. Hope you heard that one.
If you're using Cornerstone for invoicing, super easy to use it for medical records and decrease your waste.
And it's also really easy to not have to worry about deciphering other doctors' handwriting, because some doctors' handwriting is completely indecipherable.
Such a good point. And also better for, state and local laws, completing your medical records and making sure that, other people can read them if necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And hopefully the industry folk out there are listening to this, because like you said, using things that are not just single use plastics, right? I mean, I know that when I open a syringe, right, it's like, it's in a plastic, and then you have to pop it open with the cap and take it out of this heavier plastic, right? And you end up at the end of the day, if your practice sees, 30 to 50 patients a day, you end up with hundreds of these pieces of plastic. It's like ridiculous amount of waste. What can industry do to solve that problem, right? Do we really need all that packaging? It's crazy.
I don't think we do, because sometimes we would order like pharmaceutical medicine and they come in a box, and then you order just one or two products and it's just stuffed full of styrofoams or those like little plastic, what do you call those ones?
The styrofoam peanuts.
And I did look it up. I do want you guys to know this. Those styrofoam peanuts they do make biodegradable ones that you can put in the sink, and literally they get wet, they dissolve into powder. You can actually put them right down the sink. It's amazing. They need to use that stuff.
I feel like when we talked about this before, someone, or was it me, said, are then there microplastics in the water?
It's not plastic. It's based. It's like vegetable based.
Okay. All right.
So it's like soybean.
I bet those are more expensive, and most large distributors don't use them.
I think they use a lot of waste products from the soy and the wheat.
Okay.
What I have noticed some more environmentally responsible companies have started doing when they're shipping products is they would use paper instead. And, I know that's not 100% perfect, but at least paper is easily recyclable. whereas plastic foams are not at all.
Right,
Styrofoams,
right.
they're not recyclable at all. They just go to landfill. And so that's definitely something that, companies can look into. And then the other thing really when it comes to this practice checklist is having a sustainable operation. And with that, that could mean something like using evidence-based infection control, using, especially doctors practicing responsible antimicrobial use. This is hard in New York City, but one of the things that I really love about this practice checklist is to enhance an on-site green space and promote biodiversity in surroundings. I think that's really lovely because if there is a space, and maybe in Pennsylvania it's a lot more doable, that space can also be a good place for the staff working at a practice to just wind down from a busy day, even just for a couple of minutes. And, there's a lot of study that links a positive mental health to being near nature. So I think there's a win-win situation here. So for practices where this is a possibility, I think it's definitely something worth investing.
So you're saying that sustainability has a direct link with mental well-being as well. And that's a big issue that's facing veterinarians.
Yep.
So it's all interconnected. You're right. It is one welfare.
It's one welfare.
And you can start a compost.
And then if you can promote a green space that also has a little biodiversity in its own little space, then that's also contributing to the local environment in a positive way as well. And I think it's good business because clients would see that and they would love that a veterinary practice is so aware of its surroundings and its environment. And, the awareness for climate change is so huge in the public, especially in the younger generations. So having that it's not only good from a sustainability standpoint, but I think it's good from a business standpoint. And I think a lot of these are really good from a business standpoint as well.
Yeah. And if you think about how many, not even just in the veterinary hospital with the staff and the management, the vets, but how many people we touch every day, getting information out to your clients, knowing the area that you're in and what is most affecting your area, you can get information out to them via your website, via your invoices, like via your social media. And so they know what they can do in their specific communities. Yeah,
I think the things that we have posted on the show notes is going to be really helpful to practices and even owners. What do you think, Marisa, like what can we do as IndeVets? I mean, I know we aren't just seeing clients, like we're actually helping hospitals run, right, with our doctors. So what can we do to make change?
Once again, I'd also like to get Yui's thoughts on this, but
Sure.
I think Yui bringing this to our attention was amazing. So thank you, because we do we're in 11 states right now, and we have over 80 doctors, and we have over 700 partner hospitals.
Almost 900.
Oh, my goodness. Almost 900 partner hospitals. And I love the idea to start a website that is linked for our partner hospitals about sustainability and vet medicine. We can link to it on all of our email signatures and our podcasts and our social media. Like we're very involved there. And I think Yui's right. It can be overwhelming to know where to start. And so just getting that thought into people's minds is important. I mean, even after we first talked, the next time I went into a clinic, I was like, where's the recycling bin? Like even if you're so busy, like at least you're thinking about it. And so I think getting that green veterinary checklist to our partner hospitals will be at least the baseline of what we can start to do.
That would be amazing.
How about you, Yui? How do you think that we can help? What can we do as a company and as a huge group of veterinarians to start?
I think everything you mentioned, absolutely, I 100% agree with. I do also think that, I'm not going to call myself an expert in like veterinary sustainability practices at all, but I think that there's a lot of people like me who are really interested in this subject and want to be a part of it, but don't know where to start. And I bet a lot of IndeVets, us vets are probably wanting to be involved in some way. So I think having that IndeVets has this manpower of, hey, doggy, a veterinarian.
I didn't close the door all the way. My dog jumped on the door and opened it, and they all ran inside.
Go, Louie. Go outside.
They just want to be a part of the podcast.
Oh my God. They came in and they were right back to their shenanigans. Go. Sorry, Yui.
No worries. So yeah, I think getting the staff involved, the IndeVets staff involved, is a really good idea because I'm sure that I'm not the only one. There might even be somebody who's secretly, a specialist in sustainability. Maybe they're practicing zero waste and we just don't know about it because we've never asked.
Are there such things as like specialists in sustainability? I mean, I feel like you're as close to that as there gets.
No, I'm not.
No.
I wish I could be. Like, I've been trying to practice zero waste since 2019. So that's fairly recent, but it's really hard. But I think it does help to kind of minimize things and make me question, do I really need this plastic bag? Do I really need this paper bag? Do I really need to buy a water bottle right now? But yeah, I digress. That I am sure that there's the other IndeVets who would definitely want to be part of this. And I do also think that as a company and having this connection with so many different hospitals and having a platform like this on podcast and, having these like blog pieces where the public can also read it, it does, even for just a second, it might plant a seed in people who are, not necessarily directly related to us, and to have them start thinking about this, have them start a conversation. And I think it also will allow, the public who owns pets to start thinking about it. And then they will come to a practice and be like, hey, I heard that, there's this thing where veterinarians are trying to practice more sustainability. What are you guys doing in your practice? Mm-hmm. And I think that would be a really good challenge for practices to start thinking about how they've been practicing their business and start implementing change.
I think you also mentioned in your blog piece that it's really just good for business too. I think it can save money. It's also good as an outward facing policy, right? That you practice a sustainable practice, a green practice. I think more and more clients are going to like that kind of stuff. There's a lot to it, and I'm sure we can dig into this a lot more. And I think you've given all of us a really great starting point to at least start thinking about this. And as you said, we probably are planting some seeds in people's minds that are listening to this today. So hopefully everybody out there, you can start to think about ways your practice can become more sustainable and reduce waste, and start thinking more about Mother Earth on this Earth Day.
Every day is Earth Day.
Every day is Earth Day. I agree. We should be, we are very grateful to what we have. We're
genuinely grateful.
Genuinely.
That's actually one of our core values. And so I don't think we talk about enough how grateful we are for the planet. And we wouldn't be alive unless we had that. So I think this is a great starting point, Yui. I think as we expand this and talk to the IndeVets more about it, we can come up with some things that we can do as a company, and we'll make sure we want to have you back on frequently, and we can talk about what we're doing to get it out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for joining us. It was a pleasure, our pleasure. And I want to thank everybody for listening to this. I know that it makes you have to think about what you do on a daily basis. It's not always easy to think about those kinds of things. So hopefully we've given you a great start. Again, subscribe anywhere that you listen to this podcast on, and write a comment, give us a review if you really like it. And we hope to see you again on our next show.
Check out the show notes for all of Yui's amazing sustainable organizations to start. Check it out.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Yui.
Cheers. Thank you guys so much for having me.